They laughed when I walked into that luxury car dealership, asking for a driving job, a middle-aged widow with calloused hands. But when the billionaire owner saw my face, his smug smile vanished. He didn't know I held the key to his darkest secret, one that could destroy everything he'd built. If you love stories of justice and karma, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Hit that like button if you're ready to see arrogance meet its match. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories. My name is Helen Carter, and 3 months ago, I thought my life was over. My husband Robert had just passed away from a sudden heart attack, leaving me with nothing but debt and broken dreams. We'd spent everything we had on his medical bills, and our small trucking company went under when I couldn't manage it alone while caring for him. The bank was breathing down my neck about the mortgage, and my 16-year-old daughter Sophie was looking at me with those worried eyes, wondering if she'd ever make it to college. I'd been a professional driver for 25 years before Robert got sick. I knew every highway from here to California like the back of my hand, could parallel park a semi in spaces that would make grown men cry. But apparently, none of that mattered when you're a 52-year-old woman with graying hair and hands that tell the story of a lifetime of hard work. The rejections came one after another. We're looking for someone younger. This position requires a more professional appearance. We've decided to go with another candidate. Each one was like a punch to the gut, but I kept going because I had to. Sophie needed me to keep going. That's when I saw the ad for Sterling Luxury Motors. Executive driver position, immediate start, excellent pay. Something about it felt different, maybe because it was the first ad that didn't specify they wanted a young man in a suit. I stared at that piece of paper for a long time, knowing I was probably setting myself up for another humiliation. But desperation makes you brave in ways you never expected. I'll never forget walking into that showroom. It was like stepping into another world, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, with cars that cost more than most people's houses gleaming under perfect lighting. My old pickup truck looked like a rust bucket in their parking lot, and I felt every eye on me the moment I walked through those glass doors. The receptionist, a young blonde named Brittany, looked me up and down like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. "Can I help you?" she asked, with that tone that really meant, "You don't belong here." When I told her I was there about the driver position, she actually laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full-throated laugh that made everyone in the waiting room turn to stare. "Oh, honey," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I think you might be confused. We're not hiring for janitorial services today." The waiting room erupted in snickers. There were 5 other applicants, all young men in expensive suits, and they were eating up every second of my embarrassment. But I'd come too far to back down now. "I'm here about the executive driver position," I repeated, louder this time. "I have 25 years of professional driving experience, and I'd like to speak with someone about the job." Brittany's smile turned cruel. "Oh, this is rich. Wait right here, sweetie. I'm sure Mr. Sterling would love to meet you." She disappeared into the back office, and I could hear muffled laughter coming from behind the closed door. The other applicants were whispering among themselves, making jokes about the cleaning lady who thought she could drive for a billionaire. 20 minutes later, the office door opened, and out walked Jonathan Sterling himself. I'd seen his picture in the business section of the newspaper. One of the youngest billionaires in the state, owner of a luxury car empire that stretched across 3 cities. He was everything you'd expect from a man with that much money and power. Perfectly groomed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment, with that particular kind of arrogance that comes from never being told no. He looked at me with barely concealed amusement, like I was some kind of entertainment that had been arranged for his benefit. "So," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "you're the woman who thinks she can drive for Sterling Luxury Motors?" The other applicants were trying not to laugh out loud, but I could see them struggling to contain their mirth. Sterling was clearly enjoying the audience. "Tell me, ma'am, can you even see over the steering wheel of a luxury vehicle? Because our clients expect a certain standard." I felt my cheeks burn, but I kept my voice steady. I've been driving professionally for 25 years, sir. I've never had an accident, never had a ticket, and I know this city better than anyone in this room. Sterling's smile grew wider. 25 years, you say? Well, aren't you just full of surprises? He gestured to his receptionist. Brittany, why don't we give this lady a proper interview? I think everyone here could learn something about persistence. What followed was the most humiliating 15 minutes of my life. Sterling asked me questions designed to embarrass me in front of everyone. Could I lift heavy luggage without throwing out my back? Did I understand that his clients expected their driver to look presentable? Would my family obligations interfere with the demanding schedule? Each question was met with snickers from the audience, and Sterling basked in every moment of it. But then something changed. Sterling picked up my application, scanning it with theatrical boredom, until his eyes landed on something that made him freeze. His face went completely white, and his hands started to shake so badly he had to put the paper down. What did you say your full name was? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Helen Carter, I replied, formerly Helen Morrison. The color drained from Sterling's face entirely. He looked like he'd seen a ghost, and in a way, I suppose he had. For a moment, the cocky billionaire disappeared, and I saw something else entirely. Fear, raw and desperate. Morrison, he repeated, as if the name was poison in his mouth. That's right, I said, watching his reaction carefully. My maiden name was Morrison. Does that name mean something to you, Mr. Sterling? Or should I call you by your real name, Jake? The waiting room fell silent. Sterling's employees looked confused, but I could see the panic building behind his eyes. He knew. After 26 years, he finally knew that his past had caught up with him. You see, Jonathan Sterling wasn't always a billionaire. 26 years ago, he was Jake Morrison, a 19-year-old rich kid who thought the world owed him everything. And on a rainy night in October, Jake Morrison killed my little brother David in a hit-and-run accident that changed my family forever. David was 17, just 2 months away from graduating high school. He had a full scholarship to study engineering, dreams of building bridges and skyscrapers that would last forever. He was walking home from his job at the local grocery store when Jake Morrison, drunk off his father's expensive whiskey, plowed into him with his sports car and left him dying on the side of the road. I was the first person to find David. I held him as he died, watched the light fade from his eyes while we waited for an ambulance that came too late. But in those final moments, as car headlights swept across the scene, I saw something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The face of the boy who had killed my brother, staring back at me from a damaged silver car before he sped away into the night. The police investigation was a joke. Jake's family had money, influence, connections that reached into every corner of the justice system. Evidence disappeared, witnesses changed their stories, and Jake Morrison vanished from our town entirely. The official report claimed it was probably a drunk driver from out of state, someone passing through who would never be found. Case closed, but I never forgot that face. I spent years looking for Jake Morrison, following dead-end leads and false hopes. I watched as he used his family's money to reinvent himself, change his name, build an empire on the foundation of blood money. Jonathan Sterling was a lie, a carefully constructed fiction built to hide the monster underneath. Sterling tried to compose himself, gesturing frantically at his employees. Everyone out, he said, his voice cracking. Interview's over. We'll call you. The other applicants filed out reluctantly, sensing drama, but not understanding what they were witnessing. Brittany lingered by the door until Sterling shouted at her to leave. Finally, it was just the two of us, the killer and the sister of his victim, facing each other across 26 years of buried truth. I don't know what you think you know, Sterling began, but his voice was shaking so badly the words barely made sense. I know everything, Jake, I said, pulling out an old photograph from my purse. It showed his damaged car taken with an old camera in those crucial moments after I found David. I know about the silver sports car with the dented hood. I know about the paint transfer on my brother's jacket that matched your vehicle perfectly. And I know about the witness who saw you leaving the scene. The witness whose statement mysteriously disappeared from the police files. Sterling's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his leather chair. That's not possible. All that evidence was destroyed years ago. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You destroyed the official evidence, sure. But you forgot about the sister who loved David enough to spend her life savings on a private investigator. You forgot about the photographs I took before the police arrived. You forgot about the witness who disappeared. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who gave me a copy of her statement before she moved away. The mighty Jonathan Sterling was reduced to a whimpering child, begging for mercy he'd never shown my family. Please, he whispered. I was young, stupid. It was an accident. I've built a good life. I employ hundreds of people. Think of what this would do to them. Think of what you did to David, I replied. Think of what you did to my parents, who died broken-hearted because their son's killer was never brought to justice. Think of what you did to me, carrying this burden for 26 years while you lived like a king on blood money. Sterling tried to regain some of his composure. What do you want? Money. I can give you money, more than you've ever dreamed of. This isn't about money, Jake. This is about justice. That's when Sterling made his biggest mistake. His fear transformed into the same arrogance that had defined his fake life, and he leaned forward with a sneer. You think anyone will believe the word of a desperate widow against a respected businessman? You think your little photographs mean anything after all these years? I have lawyers, connections, power you can't even imagine. I'll destroy you. But what Sterling didn't know was that I'd been recording everything on my phone from the moment I walked into his office. Every cruel comment, every admission, every threat, all of it captured in perfect digital clarity. I held up the phone so he could see the recording app, watching his face crumble as he realized the depth of his mistake. You just confessed to killing my brother and threatening me, I said calmly. And now I have it all on tape. Sterling lunged for the phone, but I was quicker. Years of hard living had kept me strong, while his soft billionaire lifestyle had made him weak. I stepped back as he stumbled, his perfect suit wrinkled and his hair disheveled. It's too late, Jake, I said, hitting the send button on my phone. I've just emailed this recording to Detective Rodriguez, the investigative journalist at Channel 7 News, and my lawyer. Oh, and one more person, Sophie's journalism teacher, who helped me set up a live stream to social media. Congratulations. Your confession is now public. The sound of sirens filled the air, growing louder as they approached the dealership. Sterling looked out his window and saw police cars pulling into the parking lot, their red and blue lights painting the showroom in colors of justice. You see, I continued, as Sterling collapsed back into his chair, this was never about getting a job. I've been tracking you for 3 years, waiting for the right moment. When I saw your company was hiring, I knew this was my chance to get close enough to make you face what you'd done. Detective Rodriguez walked through the front door, the same detective who had reopened David's case when I brought him new evidence 6 months ago. He'd been waiting for enough proof to make an arrest, and my recorded confession was exactly what he needed. As they put handcuffs on Jonathan Sterling, he looked at me with pure hatred. You've destroyed everything I built, he snarled. Good, I replied, because everything you built was stolen from my brother's future. The arrest made national news. Billionaire's dark secret, exposed by brave widow, read the headlines, and suddenly my story was everywhere. The investigation that followed revealed even more corruption, bribes, cover-ups, and other crimes that Sterling's family had buried over the years. His empire crumbled overnight, his assets frozen, his reputation destroyed. But here's the twist that no one saw coming, not even me. 3 days after Sterling's arrest, I received a phone call from a lawyer representing David's estate. You see, when David died, he had a small life insurance policy that I'd forgotten about entirely. with interest over 26 years and a clause that doubled the payout if his death was the result of a crime. That policy was now worth over $2 million. The same money Sterling had thought made him untouchable became the foundation for the David Morrison Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping families of hit-and-run victims get justice. Sophie not only got her college fund, she got something better, a chance to honor her uncle's memory by studying criminal justice and helping others like us. As for me, I never did get that driving job. Instead, I got something far more valuable. The knowledge that David's death finally meant something, that his killer was behind bars, and that sometimes, if you're patient enough and brave enough, karma finds its way home. Sterling was sentenced to 25 years for vehicular manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. He'll be 70 years old when he gets out, if he lives that long. His former employees found new jobs at companies that valued integrity over arrogance. His luxury cars were auctioned off to pay his victims' families. And me? I'm doing just fine. Turns out, when your story goes viral for all the right reasons, opportunities have a way of finding you. I've been offered driving positions with 3 different companies, all of whom treat their employees with respect and dignity. But more importantly, I wake up every morning knowing that David can finally rest in peace. Sometimes people ask me if I planned it all from the beginning, if I knew that walking into that showroom would lead to Sterling's downfall. The truth is, I just wanted him to look me in the eye and admit what he'd done. I wanted him to see the face of the sister who never forgot, who never gave up, who carried David's memory through 26 years of pain and injustice. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Sometimes it just takes a widow with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Sometimes the person you least expect holds the power to bring down the mighty. If this story of justice and karma moved you, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that truth always finds a way. Subscribe for more incredible stories of underdogs getting their day in court. What would you have done in Helen's situation? Let me know in the comments below.